There's a chest freezer running in the corner of my utility room right now. You can hear it if the house goes quiet. It has been on for 9 days without touching the grid one single time, and there is venison in it that will still be frozen next spring. It cost $170 at the hardware store. What runs it costs more than that, but a good deal less than the generator most folks are thinking about, and it doesn't need a drop of gasoline. 850 watt-hours a day. That's the whole number this is about, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly what it takes to make it. My name is Walt Harlan. I ran emergency management in a rural Mississippi county for 31 years, and the call I dreaded was never about food. It was somebody on day 4 asking what to do about their insulin. I've never sold a battery or a solar panel in my life. Nobody pays me to sell you anything. I'm retired. 3 ways to power this. Call it $350, $750, or right around $1,000, and you can build the $1,000 one in stages, which is how I did it. Nearly every house I ever walked into had a generator sitting in the shed. Not one of them had this. Stay with me. The advice you'll hear everywhere is to leave your big refrigerator alone and just run it a couple of hours a day off an inverter hooked to your truck. And I want to be fair about it. That is a real thing, and if it's 3 in the morning and you've got nothing else, do it. It's the break glass version, but there are 2 problems with it, and I've seen both. The first is your truck. That inverter pulls hard, and it pulls through an alternator that was designed to top off a starting battery, not run a household appliance. Do it long enough with the engine running and you can cook the alternator. Do it with the engine off and you'll flatten a starting battery, which does not enjoy being run down and often does not come all the way back. And your vehicle is not a spare part in your plan. Your vehicle is your plan. It's how you get to the pharmacy, how you get out if you have to go. I am not willing to gamble it on a gallon of milk. The second problem is the food itself, and this one's quieter. When you cycle a big refrigerator 2 hours on and 6 hours off, the inside climbs past 40 degrees between runs. 40 is not a number somebody made up above 40. Perishable food is in the danger zone, and 2 hours up there is the outside limit. Meanwhile, the freezer side softens, partly thaws, and refreezes every single cycle. What comes out the other end is meat that looks fine and isn't. And here's the arithmetic that ends the argument. A full-size refrigerator wants 3 to 4 kilowatt hours a day. Run that through an inverter and allow for the fact that you can't run a battery bank flat, and you are shopping for something like 400 amp hours of storage. 4 batteries. 4. Just to keep one appliance honest before you've turned on a single light. So that's the thing everybody tells you to do, and why I won't. Here's what I do instead, and it starts with a box that costs less than 2 tanks of generator fuel. 5 cubic feet, chest style. The plain white one on the bottom shelf at Home Depot. $170. I put a meter on mine and watched it for a week, about 500 watt-hours a day, sitting in a room that isn't air-conditioned. Now, why a chest and not an upright? Because this is the part people skip. Cold air is heavy. It sits in the bottom of a chest freezer like water in a bucket, and when you lift the lid, it mostly stays put. Open an upright, and the cold pours straight out the front and onto your feet, and the compressor has to make all of it again. Same insulation, same compressor, completely different power bill, and the difference gets bigger every time somebody opens the door. One more thing about where you put it. A freezer in an uninsulated garage in a Mississippi August is fighting a 100-degree room all day long, and it will eat half again the power of the same box standing in a hallway. Coolest interior room you've got. 6 inches off the wall so it can breathe. That decision is free, and it's worth more than any accessory you can buy for it. And this is the one that matters most. Mine is not sitting empty in the garage waiting for a disaster. It runs 365 days a year as my overflow freezer. Deer season, half a hog, whatever's on sale. Which means when the lights go out, it's already at 0 degrees with 200 pounds of frozen mass in it. And frozen mass is the cheapest insulation there is. A full freezer holds cold for days. An empty one that you plug in the morning of the storm is starting from a standstill on the worst day of the year. That's the freezer, but a freezer is no good at all for the one thing on this list that must never be allowed to freeze. 2.6 cubic feet, $130. The kind of thing a college kid keeps under a desk. About 65 watts while the compressor is actually running, which works out to roughly 350 watt-hours a day. And this is the one I'd buy first, ahead of the freezer, for a reason that has nothing to do with food. Insulin has to stay cold, not frozen cold. Same for a good many other medications, and if there's a baby in the house, same for what's in the bottles. Freeze insulin, and you have ruined it. There's no thawing it back. In a long outage, that little box stops being an appliance and starts being a piece of medical equipment. And I'd say plainly, ask your pharmacist what your particular prescription needs, because they differ, and that is a 2-minute phone call you can make on a Tuesday. Put the two together, and you're at 850 watt-hours a day. $300 of appliance, holding your frozen food and your cold food and your medicine on about a quarter of what the big refrigerator wanted. 4 batteries for the fridge in your kitchen, less than 1 for both of these. Now, the part everybody assumes is complicated, and the first version of it is 1 box and 1 cable, 100 amp-hour lithium iron phosphate battery, or a portable power station of about the same size if you'd rather have it all in one handle. Add a 600-watt inverter. Call it $350, and you keep it plugged in and topped off, sitting in the corner. Lights go out, you move 2 plugs. That's the whole operation. 2 things people get wrong here, and both of them cost money for nothing. They buy far too much inverter. Those 2 compressors together pull under 150 watts while they're running. 600 watts, with a surge rating about double that, covers the startup spike with room to spare. A 3,000-watt inverter doesn't help you. It just burns more power sitting there doing nothing. And they spend up for pure sine wave because a forum told them to. For these 2 appliances, a modified sine wave unit will do the job. I've run it. It'll run a hair warmer and a hair less efficient, and that's the honest whole of it. The one exception: if your freezer has a digital control board instead of an old-fashioned dial, spend the extra $30. Boards are fussier than dials. There's one more thing about lithium that almost nobody mentions, and it matters most in exactly the weather that takes your power out. A lithium iron phosphate battery must not be charged below freezing. Discharging in the cold is fine. It'll run your freezer all night at 20 degrees without complaint. But putting a charge into a frozen cell damages it permanently, and you won't see it happen. Most decent batteries now have a low-temperature cutoff built in that simply refuses the charge. Check that yours does. And either way, keep the battery indoors with you, not out in the shed where you keep the generator. The other habit is just discipline. It sits plugged in and topped off, and once a month you look at it. A battery you meant to charge is the same as no battery at all. That battery will carry the pair right around 24 hours. 24 hours. Now, in 31 years, 24 hours was the easy kind. That's the outage people tell stories about at church. The ones that emptied the pharmacy and put folks in a shelter ran 9 days, 12 days, 3 weeks, and there is no single battery on this earth that does 3 weeks. Months is a different piece of equipment. It's not a bigger battery, either. It's a second one. 200 amp-hour batteries instead of 1, and you rotate them. One runs the freezer and the fridge overnight, down to about 15%. In the daylight, it comes off and the other one goes on, and the tired one goes on, the charger solar, or a generator, or your truck if that's what you've got. Next night, you swap back. That's not 24 hours anymore. That's indefinite, as long as there's sun or fuel. But I have to be straight with you about the solar side, because this is where I'd rather you hear it from me than find out in January. 200 watts of panel, 2 of the common 100-watt panels, and a charge controller will carry this in June without breaking a sweat. In December, with the sun low and the days short, 2 panels will not keep up. That's not a defect. That's the sun. What saves you is that in December, those two boxes aren't working nearly as hard either. A compressor in a cold utility room runs a fraction of what it runs in August. So the shortfall is real, but it's a good deal smaller than the panel math alone makes it look. And on the day it doesn't close, you run the generator for 2 hours and you're square. The thing that makes this tier work isn't the equipment. It's that somebody has to be there to move a cable twice a day, every day, and be there on day 9 when everybody is tired and nobody is keeping track of much of anything anymore. That's indefinite as long as a person is awake to do it, and the last version doesn't need a person at all. 2 lithium batteries, 300-watt panels, a charge controller, and the same modest inverter. About $1,000 all in. And this is what I actually run. Overnight, the freezer and the fridge together take somewhere between a quarter and a third out of the bank. Come morning, the panels start putting it back, and on a clear day, the bank is full again by the middle of the afternoon. Then it sits there topped off, waiting for dark. Nobody moves a cable. Nobody remembers to do anything. There is no switch to throw when the grid drops, because it was never on the grid to begin with. 2 notes on the parts, because they're where the money either works or doesn't. Spend up for an MPPT charge controller rather than the cheap kind on a short winter day with a low sun. It will pull noticeably more out of the same 3 panels, and that is exactly the day you need it. And don't lay the panels flat. Tilt it up toward the south, roughly at the angle of wherever you live, will beat flat by a wide margin in the months when the difference counts. The reason I want you to hear the number is that $1,000 is a real amount of money and it stops a lot of people cold. So don't buy it as $1,000. Buy the mini fridge. Live with it for a month. Add the battery and the inverter, and now you have Tier 1, and you're already better off than the man with the generator. He hasn't started since spring. Panels next fall. The freezer, whenever the appliance store puts them on sale. I built mine over about 2 years. Every piece I added worked from the day it showed up, and not one of them needed the next piece to be useful. So here it is. Hold. $300 of appliance, and somewhere between $350 and $1,000 of power. 850 watt-hours a day. And the difference between that and the refrigerator in your kitchen is not a small one. It's 4 times the storage for one appliance that still leaves you standing there at 41 degrees wondering about the chicken. But food isn't really the reason I built it. I sat in a lot of kitchens over 31 years, and I can tell you the ones that stayed with me weren't about groceries. They were about a woman on day 4 with a vial in a lunch cooler and no more ice in the county, doing arithmetic in her head about how long it had been. There was nothing in my truck that could help her. There is no shelter cot that fixes that. That's what a small cold box on a small battery actually is. Not a convenience. Not a barbecue you're throwing because everything's thawing anyway. It's the one thing in the house that keeps working for the person in it who can't wait. And the folks I sat with almost always knew they should have something. They'd looked at it. They'd priced it out one Sunday afternoon. They just hadn't got around to it. Here's what I want you to do Saturday, and it costs nothing and takes 10 minutes. Go out to your kitchen and look at the refrigerator, either the yellow energy sticker if it's still on there, or the plate on the back. Find the kilowatt hours per year. Divide it by 365. That's your number for your house, and now you know what you'd actually be up against instead of guessing. Write it on a card and stick it on the door. I'd bet most of you come out somewhere between 3 and 4. Then come tell me in the comments, what's the longest you've ever gone without power? And go read that number off the back of your refrigerator and tell me what it says. I read every single one of these. The stories you send back are the reason I keep recording.